All right, guys, welcome back to episode something of the Shady Youth. Yes, I lost count. Don't worry about it. You can tell by the title what episode this is, and you can probably tell by the title what kind of topic we're gonna be talking about today. And it's gonna be a very serious one, so brace yourselves. Trigger warning for anyone out there that may have endured something like that. But before we get into that, I want to introduce my guest today. We have the amazing, the incredible, the ever so charismatic Abdurrahman Surfraz.
Hi, how are you doing, everybody? Thanks for having me on the podcast, Shaquille.
No worries, bro. No worries. You're probably gonna go on like some episode. Like at this point, I knew like you were gonna be on some episode. So I definitely thought that you were perfect and definitely like you could definitely be a really good voice for this topic. But before we get into that, how is your quarantine? How is the past few months for you?
Dang, man, especially both of us, first couple months of quarantine, we was finishing up the semester.
Yeah, that was rough. That was rough.
But
yeah.
Online learning, I'm sure a lot of y'all can relate. That online learning wasn't it. It was not it.
I'm assuming you didn't have time to get a haircut in that time.
I also did not have time to get a haircut, obviously. So, growing out my hair, living like a savage. But online learning, and then Ramadan, mashallah, went well.
Yeah.
Spent time with family, that was good. And just past month, just like been chilling, catching vibes.
That's dope, bro. That's dope. Your Ramadan went well?
Ramadan, alhamdulillah, went good. And actually today's one of the first days I actually like really went out. And I'm glad I got to meet up with you. I haven't seen you in like 6 months.
Yeah, I know.
I haven't seen you in like 6
bro,
months.
I think the last time we met up was February?
Yeah,
or January, February or January.
It was like January.
It was definitely January or February.
You really think about it, a long time ago.
Because the conversation. Remember when I called you yesterday, and I was like, "You can drive now," because
yeah, I had my license suspended for some excessively speeding while I was driving. But I got that all taken care of.
It's not recommended to do. But
do not speed while driving. But I learned my lesson, and I'm able to fully drive now.
Yeah, thank God. And I called you yesterday, and you were like, "Yeah, I got that taken care of in like February." I was like, "Oh shoot, yeah, it's been a while, damn."
But I'm glad I got to see you today. One thing goes to show, time really just goes by fast, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Because it seems like it was just the other week when we met up that day, and that was months ago.
Yeah, so, and bro, and within these few months, there's just been just aside from our own personal lives, there's just been so much going on in like the societal scope. Where, well, first we had the Black Lives Matter movement like in full force, right, as it should,
of course.
And as it still should. And
shout out to everyone going out to protest, stay safe and everything.
Yeah, of course. And then we had what did we have after? Well, there's like a ton of foreign policy stuff that's still going on. Like Yemen is still there's so many starving children in Yemen right now, and there was like a bunch of corporations that were put on blast for not paying their workers in Bangladesh.
Oh yeah, I heard about
bro, that was crazy because they literally already made the clothes,
and then they stopped the orders, right?
Yeah, and they didn't get paid for that.
That's crazy.
So hashtag pay up and
literally, and these people working, these women in all these, it's mostly women in these shops,
women and children.
Women and children, they're barely making like cents on the dollar a day.
Exactly, bro.
Come on, it's terrible, and the living conditions and everything. Man, I pray for all of them.
For real, bro. Like make dua for these people and just pray for them and hold your corporations accountable, like Gap,
fast fashion companies, all
Banana that. Republic. There was like some other Kylie Jenner hold her accountable.
She's literally she's a billionaire.
Yeah, she's not paying,
and she can't pay a couple however much it is to get these poor workers.
Exactly,
paid.
Bro. And and recently there's like aside from all of that was going on, recently there's been activity that hits close for both of us. And I don't know if it's like a nationwide thing, but definitely in New York, there's been a resurgence of the Me Too movement, particularly in the South Asian community, where it's something to truly be noticed and acknowledged, because in the South Asian community, these type of things aren't really brought to light. It's really not. There's so many horror stories where I've heard over the years of people that we know, right, women primarily, where they have some kind of uncle or some kind of like teacher that would come to the house or tutor, and they would get groped or they would something else, right? Something worse. And it's just these are disgusting, horrifying stories, right? But these are things that happen. They don't get spoken enough about. And recently, that's been changing. From what I've been seeing, there's been a lot of survivor stories that have been coming to light recently, and yeah, just major shout out to everyone that had the courage for doing that, and for everyone that is still not ready to share their story. You guys are still strong. You guys are still like very, very resilient, just for living with what you went through, right? And not to take away from people that haven't told their stories, but recently there has been a lot of people that have been coming out and trying to hold their abusers accountable, and that's sort of what we want to talk about today. So for the past few weeks, I've basically just been, reading these stories on Instagram, and I've just been noticing how close to home a lot of these stories are. Like, there are people that some of them we went to high school with, some of them that literally were at tutorials that our friends worked at or went to. Some of them were by people that we know by name, right? And it's just like,
it's unreal.
It's surreal, man. It's so crazy because these are like dudes that people didn't know were like that, and all these stories are coming out like, it's horrifying. It's truly horrifying. I have no idea how the victims feel, because so many of them are beyond just, groping is something disgusting in and of itself, but some of these are even beyond that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure how to even go about reacting to all of these, because sometimes I feel like
it's kind of like you just don't even know how to react. You kind of just like,
right,
state of like, am I really like, is this really happening? Like,
right, yeah, because there's just been so many, like, of course the Me Too thing has been
a movement for a while now.
Yeah, it's been going on for a few years now. It blossomed with Harvey Weinstein, and then it moved past just the Hollywood industry to like the workplace, and now it's just become a general thing for sexual abuse, right? But recently it's just been so many, like the influx of it has just been tremendous, and obviously it's a good thing. But for brown dudes like us, these are some of these guys, like they look like, they sort of look like us. They have like the same haircut, like they kind of dress the same, listen to the same music.
Yeah. And then yeah,
and it's just like, and some of them like hang out with people that we know, and some people we've directly spoken to. So it just seems like a societal thing that, well, first and foremost, culturally, there has to be something wrong for so many of these things to be going on. Not even just in the South Asian community. There has to be something going on in like the South Asian community in America itself, right? It doesn't have to be just back home. There has to be something going on right here. And then obviously there has to be something going on within brown boy circles.
Well, the thing with like, I feel like in the South Asian community, just like, oh my god,
it's all good.
Just having these types of talks, where ever since we were kids, just kind of been taboo.
Yeah.
Even bring it up, even in a healthy way, like not like even like disregarding these like atrocious cases and whatnot. Just even talking about in a healthy way. You know what I'm saying? It's always been kind of taboo. Not you never really brought it up, even when you're growing up or whatever. Your parents never really talk to you about that type of stuff. And on top of that, our sisters in these communities like going through these like terrible, like heinous, like acts of crime that happen towards them.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it even double the fact like how would they even have the courage to even speak up about it?
Yeah.
When even in the first place we didn't even talk about that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just like the double factor in that regard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, how are you gonna even speak about that when you can't speak about it like priorly? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And not even just not speaking about it. It's like when they finally do get the courage to speak about it, there's just so many things that go around, like well, the common trope is like, what was she wearing, right?
But
Or
it has nothing to do with it, because
Yeah.
that's never gonna stop. If a guy is gonna say something towards you, or even, God forbid, like advance on you
Yeah.
unwanted,
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with what she's wearing, and it's so unfortunate how that's the first thing that
Yeah.
asks when
Yeah, of course.
something like that happens.
Yeah, I know. And of course, like, our religion promotes modesty in a general
Obviously.
sense, of course. But
Yeah.
when that discussion is brought up in this context, that is disgusting. Like, this is not the time nor the place to even bring up that discussion.
Exactly, it's putting the blame on the woman. No
Yeah,
matter what she
yeah,
was wearing.
yeah. No, of course. And advising someone and then putting the blame on the victim are two completely different things.
Exactly.
Two completely different things. There's one thing to tell your friend, hey, you might want to avoid that area because there's some sketchy stuff going on. But then when something happens to her, what are you gonna say? Like, why'd you go there in the first place? And like, no, that's the point where you comfort her, and you try to support her as much as you can, right? There is
I'm sorry to cut you off. That's probably also a big reason as to why these females, like, and these victims can't even speak up, because they know
Yeah.
when they speak up, they eventually they get turned on them, and then they get shamed for it,
Yeah.
and they blamed for it, and then it's just like you're scared to speak up. You know?
Yeah, no, definitely. There was a story a few years ago. I don't know if you remember it. It was more in the Bengali community. There was a girl named Samiha Khan, and her story went viral like crazy within the Bengali community,
Yeah.
even in the older community, because it was put in the newspaper, right? What happened was she was going through so much trauma, so much depression for years because of sexual abuse from her own father
That's terrible.
from the age of 8. And she committed suicide at the age of about 22, I believe. So 4 years ago. Right now she would have been 26. And that's crazy to think that someone lost her life at 22, right? I'm like almost 20, right? In a month I'm 20. I think you're already 20.
Yeah, I turned 20 a couple months ago.
Like, to lose your life at such a young age is just sad. But the fact that she did it at her own hands truly shows the amount of pain
and
that
suffering, God only knows all the things.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And do you know what the reaction was to that by the older Bengali community? It was her story was put in the newspaper, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just such a sad thing that happened, and it should be reported on to a respectful extent. But it was put in the Bengali newspaper. I forget the name of the newspaper, but it was put in, right? And rather than focus on the sexual abuse that may have led to her depression and trauma and possible suicide, right? It didn't focus on that. It focused on how her parents were a bit too how do I put it? A bit too like creeping, not creeping, but like how they put it was she was like how they phrased it made her sound like someone that was upset that her parents were trying to enforce religious discipline on her, and she was rebelling against it. That's how they phrased it. They didn't mention one thing about the sexual abuse from her father.
So she was
at all
an angsty, rebellious teenager that ended up killing herself. That's the way they phrased it.
That's the way they phrased it. And obviously it was more in like a more like, it wasn't like that blatant of a claim, but when you read when you read like through the lines, actually it wasn't even that subtle. Like they didn't, just the fact that they didn't mention something that huge, it truly speaks to like how much our community
likes to suppress these things.
Exactly. They want to quiet victims. Or they're just ashamed of it happening, and so they're like, oh, well, if we pretend it didn't happen, then this scrutiny won't be upon us.
It won't bring shame to our community.
Yeah.
Our Muslim community, our Muslim community.
Yeah.
Or whatever label you want to put it.
Yeah.
But it's like at the end of the day, it's like forget about being Bengali or forget about being Muslim. It's just a human rights violation at that point.
Yeah.
Literally, that was a young female, regardless of whatever race she was or whatever religion she was part of, whatever the things that happened to her should not have had to happen to her at all, or to any female regardless.
bro. And even in Islam, we have strict gender relations.
Exactly.
Like, you would think that people who believe in those traditional values, when they see it desecrated to that extent, you would think that people would be on the side of like trying to seek out justice.
Especially for the young girl.
Yeah.
Actually, in the story, did it mention anything about the mother? Like, what was the mother in all
I
this?
I don't really remember, but
I'm sure maybe I don't know the story. I'm just speculating.
Yeah.
But maybe it could have been the mother was father threatened the mother, or mother's on the sideline, or like who knows what could have been the case.
I have no idea what happened with that, but yeah, that's a good point to bring up. So I brought up this story because it resurged recently with all these allegations, and stories coming to light, and that story was what went viral again, right? Because to remind us of what could happen if we did things the wrong way again.
And like, how far have we truly really come? If that was 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And did that girl
How
really
many-
get any justice?
How many girls like that
And
are
that
out
was just
there
one
that
case. That was
yeah,
just one
that
case
was just one case.
brought up. That was brought to the light.
That was how many names do we not know?
or
right.
never even will know.
Yeah.
Because it's all swept under the rug. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, man. It's a scary thought to think of just how many people are suffering through this, and
just our own sisters in the community. And
yeah, for real.
Our own sisters in the community, and we never even know. And it's just so terrible that we're as men, like as trying to get allies to our fellow sisters and whatnot. So we want to protect them. You know what I'm saying? They're our women, right? You know what I'm saying? We have to
for real.
Them, from people, but then it's terrible how it happens even within your circles, your own family. At the end of the day, and it's like at that level, like a person can only do so much, but when it happens in your own family, like what can you do? You know what I'm saying? If you don't know about it, like how can a regular person help you?
I think at that point, like, we really just as is like a society on a macro scale, like every single man out there has to truly like stand up and be proactive and like truly check in with the woman in their lives and make sure things are okay. And you can never be too safe with that. You can never be too safe with that.
Your friends, your family members, your friends' sisters, like everybody. It's just terrible how like even your sister or my sister or like all the women in our lives, our friends, our girls,
Yeah.
They it's that at the end of the day, like they walking out at night, is not safe for them, and that's the reality.
Yeah, it shouldn't be the reality at all. It shouldn't be.
It's so unfortunate that it is.
Yeah.
And thankfully, you there for your sister, I'm there for my sister or the woman in your life. Be there for them, walk with them, try to be there for them. But it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like that. And for all the women in like living their lives without good husbands or like good brothers or like good male friends or good male energy in their life. You know what I'm saying? Like they have to live life alone, like in constant fear.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or like in the constant fear that something could happen to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's a sucky thing because another thing that a lot of people fail to take into consideration is that when they do bring up the excuse of like, not excuse, but when they do bring up the thing of like, oh, you shouldn't have been in the first place. First of all, that should never be brought up after the fact. Like it's just not right to bring it up after the fact. And second of all, a lot of these cases are from people that they knew, from people that they thought they were safe with.
Because I don't know. I don't want to say I don't want statistics or anything like that because I don't want to like pull anything just out of nowhere. But I feel like what you just said right now is like so true in that majority. I don't know if this is facts or not. So fact check.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm majority. I actually no. It could be for all we know. But
I feel like when it comes to like talking about like these sexual abuse cases or these women and these females that have been victim to these cases,
a good amount of them are
come from your own circle and your own family. And I feel like a lot of people, when we hear about stuff, you think it's just like you are programmed to think it was just like a random person on the street, or like someone you didn't know or someone you barely knew. But a lot of the time, it's people you are in contact with every day. Yeah. Then that's the sad part about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know the statistics or like so I don't want to quote it. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of the times that's the case. And I feel like a lot of us don't think about it like that in that regard.
Yeah. No, man, it's really true. And one thing that I've been focusing on, I'm not trying to focus on, but I've been thinking of, because for the last like couple weeks ago, like I went back to work, right? So they gave me a lot of hours, and so the only time I can really, and it's been busy because I work at an urgent care and it's been like pretty busy. So the only time I can really check social media was when like on the trains home, right?
Yeah.
And every single time, every single day, I would do that. There'd be someone like on someone I'm following, like they would put another story on their Instagram story, like another story of sexual abuse on their Instagram story. I'm just like, oh wow, there's more every single day, and it's crazy, man, because the likelihood of a girl right now being a victim of that is pretty damn high. Like the likelihood of most of the girls that having to go through something like that is pretty damn high.
Or even just like even asking just a random woman you see on the street, just
Yeah.
like asking real quick, and I'm sure a large majority of them you ask probably have maybe not a bunch of them, maybe
Maybe not
at
even,
least,
yeah,
at
maybe
least
maybe
one.
not like the extreme stories,
But
but definitely like catcalling.
catcalling, like,
The subways are packed,
packed.
dude. You don't think they're
we've seen
not
it.
being?
We've seen it ourselves. You know, just like walking down the street. You know what I'm
Yeah, I
saying?
don't know. Catcalling is a definite, especially in New York, bro.
Yeah.
Like we hear like the "Hey yo ma"
It-
or like
The thing is,
shoddy or whatever,
a
right?
lot of people would just write it off, or like the people who do it, or like even other spectators probably write it off, like, oh, it's just harmless, name calling, or it's like harmless attention
Yeah.
seeking. But the thing is, it perpetuates it even further.
Yeah.
Because it just escalates.
Yeah.
Escalates it. Because when you allow that to happen, then you just allow other stuff to
Yeah.
occur also. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
you really have to nip it in the bud before extreme things happen. Where, and that's basically like what I wanted to lead into, where I would see all these stories, and recently one person that we know mutually, I'm not sure if you saw it, but they called out one of their friends recently. Like one of their friends was accused. I'll show you the story later. I don't want to name drop unless like in case they feel like uncomfortable. But I
Yeah,
saw that,
obviously.
and I had such massive respect for them, because they literally like once you know the name, you'll be shocked too, because we would see this whole group of guys, right, and everyone knew that they were like really close friends in high school, right? They were hanging out all the time, and recently he put up a story, like because one of his boys from high school like got exposed for some seriously messed up stuff, or for it was either for something like coercing a girl into doing things, or some sort of I don't know, some sort of creepy thing, right? And this guy that we both know, he shared it on his story. Not even that, he didn't do just that. He added on to that story by saying, "Hey, I was friends with this guy in high school, and I am truly ashamed for not picking up on the red flags that were there." And he listed the red flags. He stated that he would always comment on the girls that we were going out with in our group. He would always like unprovokingly touch girls for no reason. He said that luckily, I grew apart from him in high school, but just the fact that I was close to this person is just hardening, right? And I just felt like such massive respect for him for even having the courage and the strength to put someone that he was close with on blast like that, like someone that you would call your brother. That's how close that they seemed from an outsider perspective, right? And I'm sure I think he even stated that himself, like he thought of him as a brother, but he called him out on that.
I mean,
but you know what? Finish your thought actually.
No, I'm just gonna. That's on his part. I don't know this person who
you know. I'll tell you afterwards.
But regardless of the fact, just like someone you once knew, and then being able to speak out against him, to show your allyship,
Yeah.
saying, speaking out against injustices, even though this was a person you once really considered a close friend.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's a big part of the movement too.
Yeah, exactly.
To be a big support.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which gives these victims make them feel more empowered.
Exactly.
Be able to tell their stories. Continue your thought.
Yeah. Another blessing I saw in that was the fact that he was reflecting on what he did wrong because
as a person who was like kind of a third party
right.
in
See,
this situation.
so he noticed red flags, right? He said, yeah, he would say some things like that, but we just like shrugged it off as a joke, and that's a common thing in our circles. Like every guy knows like a few other dudes that would make like
those
like
remarks,
like
those,
sexist comments or like just objectifying women here and there, and it would just like I guess locker room talk, like and I'm sure like this isn't just exclusive to men. Like women also kind of have these things about guys here and there, but
yeah.
you can tell the difference between just like casually saying, "Oh yeah, she's like good looking," and like stuff like that. You can tell the difference between that and something that is just straight up disrespectful. That is straight up disrespectful, and I'm someone that I would never even comment on a girl's looks like that. But so I know that's not like the culture of the time, obviously. So, but you can definitely tell that when a disrespectful statement is made, you can definitely tell. You can tell when the red flags are there, and I think that's something that we truly have to be proactive now more than ever, so these things don't happen again.
It, like right when it starts,
right?
Or like call it out
Exactly.
Because there's a difference between kind of just even half jokingly saying and then like seriously meaning something when you say like because you say it with that you say it with your gut. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you say those types of comments.
Yeah.
And this is the same exact thing, but kind of like when we're younger and we're at elementary school, middle school, and then we have seminars about bullying and whatnot. And then they always talk about don't be a bystander for bullying.
Yeah.
Don't be, because it's not always just the bullier and the person being bullied. It's also the people surrounding them who are allowing it to happen also, or either allowing it to happen or actively trying to stop it as well, which is also relates to this situation and this whole movie as well.
Yeah, being a bystander. It reminded me of in middle school, we had this really phenomenal like presentation from this guy that came in. He was like some sort of I don't know what to call it, like a bullying expert.
A bullying expert?
I don't know, but he had this presentation that was really famous.
He was a bully when he was there.
So he had this presentation that was like really popular at the time, and he was like, it was a very good presentation. Like he truly went through the emotional ramifications of someone that was being bullied. He truly went through like he spoke about all this. I think he had like skits here and there too, but he would tell stories.
I mean, if it stuck with you from when you were in middle school, it must have been good.
Yeah, of course. I don't remember the specifics, but I remember one thing. I remember one analogy he used. He was saying that, think of it like the African like Sahara, right, where a lion is prowling on a gazelle, right? The lion is sort of just creeping up to him. The gazelle does not know what is happening. He's just like grazing on the grass or whatever, right? But the lion is creeping up unbeknownst, and then all of a sudden the lion pounces. The story usually is not. It was not just the lion and the gazelle in that picture. There's also a zebra.
Just chilling on the side.
there's also a zebra just chilling on the side.
It was kind of
watching, right?
like...
just walking from a distance, right? Because I think something about zebras like in herds or whatever, right? But there's a zebra, right? This is an example. There's a zebra on the side,
the striped
and
horse.
He's watching, right? And he didn't tell the gazelle. It's a funny example, but it's the analogy so can be.
Obviously from middle school.
Yeah, and he said, and the point was, don't be a zebra. Don't be a damn zebra. And it became like an ongoing joke amongst all of us. But I remember like a bunch of us, like a bunch of the people there in that auditorium just started crying. These are like 12, 13-year-olds that realized like what we could have done, or like people that we knew that were like
regrets,
regrets, exactly. Like what joke could have been too far, right?
Yeah.
Or because we also knew people like that were being bullied, or just like we went through it ourselves, or maybe we added to that culture.
And it's like when you're younger, man, we're like, words hurt, bro. Like honestly, like words really do hurt. A lot of people, words can't hurt you, but when you're young, in your school, like, in a social environment, and like, kids are like really easy, like, or to join in on laughter, like join in on this and whatnot, and it really sticks with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure like a lot of us can relate to like being bullied at one point.
Yeah, no, of course.
For something, or like for this or for that, but it really sticks with you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hated middle school because of that.
Yeah, but it's something all of us can relate to some extent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I like to think, don't be a zebra. I'm sure this guy that we were talking about, I'm sure, like, even just explaining the fact that they have regrets, it shows like maturity, like growth at
Yeah.
that point, because it shows that you self-reflected enough to know that that past was wrong when I was younger.
Yeah.
And this is something when I see in the future, I'm gonna actively try to, condemn. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because like obviously when you're high school to where we are now, we're like a couple years removed. From when you were 16, 17 to even now, I feel like I've grown a lot mentally.
Yeah, no, of
You know what I'm
course.
saying? Even though it's only span of like 2-3 years,
Yeah.
and I feel like these years are like so important. And then you could go in a really good way, a really bad way, but you really change a lot,
Mhm.
mentally especially. And for a lot of people, in a good way, in a growth mindset, like trying to learn from past mistakes and try to implement it, so to not let that happen in the future.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, us having this conversation, just talking about it in general, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure these people, if they could go back, they would try to condemn it, and hopefully in the future they would, when they see the flags, stop it right then and there. And me and you too, both of us also, I'm sure, like maybe back when we were high school, not really see it, or like really know what to look out for. Also,
Yeah. That's really like we were, because I definitely wasn't in those circles where I don't know. I was a very like introverted kid,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Obviously, I mean, we hung out together and whatnot.
Yeah, like we saw each other like basically every day,
Yeah,
but
but
we of course also had our own circles and stuff like that.
it's just like it's crazy to think like going back, you know, just thinking about all the stuff that happened that in the years we went, and then it's like not even knowing about
Yeah.
it, and then learning about it later on.
Yeah,
But it's good to have like emotional growth, and like meant like being aware,
yeah,
and having that awareness to be more proactive about it in the
Mhm.
future. You know what I'm saying?
definitely. Like reflection is a massive thing. I remember reading something where like if a person is still the same person that they were 10 years ago, that means they actually went backwards.
They went back, yeah.
Meaning like if they stagnated, that's actually less growth. That if they stay the same, that's actually like
Less
a
growth,
reverse
yeah.
decision, And it's so true. Like if you're not constantly like
Learning
looking
or like
back,
trying to improve yourself.
yeah, improving yourself, reflecting, seeing what you could do better, especially in these scenarios where like you really have to be proactive so other people don't get hurt. It's not just you it's not just you at this point. It's other people as well that you could be protecting, you could be saving.
But I feel like I don't want to say societal culture, but this whole saying, like at the end of the day, all you got is yourself. You know what I'm saying? Feeling like, yo, you just gotta
Yeah,
watch out for yourself,
yeah.
watch out for yourself, which is true to like
An extent.
yeah. Like at the end of the day, like you got your friends, you got hopefully you have a loving family. Not everyone's fortunate enough to have a loving family either.
Yeah.
Not everyone's fortunate enough to be in that situation. But at the end of the day, like to an extent, like you got yourself. You gotta be responsible for your own happiness. You gotta be responsible for your own well-being. You gotta be responsible for like this and that for yourself. No one's gonna check up on you. Obviously, to an extent, like your friends and your family, but at the end of the day, you really gotta take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And that to an extent, I feel like this is the reason as to why a lot of people, when I don't want to say a lot of people, but maybe some people, I don't want to say everyone is like this, but maybe this is the reason as to why some people might not want to, get involved in situations. They don't want to get involved or like get mixed up because it's not affecting me. Like I could acknowledge that it's wrong, but it's not affecting me, so I don't want to get involved.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, I don't want to say is that's wrong to be like that, but in situations like where it's like it's wrong, you gotta
Yeah.
even stepping up and saying something could make the world of a difference. You know what I'm saying? What's your thoughts on that?
I saw this really good thread on Twitter where they so I think it was the handle was like Ibn Tariq, and basically he put up a thread of like acknowledging the fact that it's hard to bring these up in like male circles because it's a difficult thing to like to call someone out, right? Because it's just like, yo, why you being a buzzkill, or like, yo, what
like,
are you taking it mad serious, bro? It's just a joke,
just a
something
joke.
like that, right? So he was like, it's a difficult thing. It's an easy thing to say, call them out, put them on blast for the red flags, but
when it comes to it,
yeah, you gotta stand up, right? Obviously. So he was giving like a few tips here and there, like you gotta know that, like at this point you probably know your boys better than people from the outside, so you know what works on them. So good advice he said was like, just if they joke about something that you're uncomfortable with, joke back, but one example was like, oh, if someone says something that like they could be potentially canceled for, just be like, yo, I'm telling Twitter, or something like that, and then double down afterwards and like, yo, that was actually like you on some real, like, you shouldn't say that, like something like that, right? Just ease into it. You don't have to just straight up say, yo, you're a creep, you're a bad person for doing this. Like, no, you just be wise.
Feel attacked either,
exactly. Yeah.
Group,
yeah. Like, yo, what are you doing?
Exactly. Like, obviously, no one wants to feel like they're being attacked or singled out. Like, no one likes that. But as you say, that's actually, is easing into something is a lot better than just like going full force on something.
Yeah. Another thing is like, if you know that your friends check your posts on social media, like constantly post about it, because they'll see it and chances are, like, people are not stupid. They know when they're being talked about. Yeah. So just do that. Or if you're not comfortable doing it in front of a person, just, like most of us have group chats with our friends these days. So just be like, hit up the group chat one night, be like, hey, that was actually like kind of messed up, in a way that doesn't put them like on the attack. And because one thing that you have to keep in mind is that people don't like being seen as a bad person.
No one does.
Yeah, we all think we're all good people until we're not. And that's why a lot of these I mentioned to a friend the other day that I've never seen a sexual abuser apologize.
What do you mean by that?
Because they just
acknowledge that what they did was wrong.
Yeah, or maybe they do, but not to the extent. They'll never just be like, "I'm sorry that I did specifically this that you're accusing me of."
Kind of like the whole I don't know, what was the whole Aziz Ansari thing. He kind of just like, in one of his specials in the beginning, he kind of just like talked about whatever he was accused of and kind of just like mentioned it for a little bit and then just went about.
I mean,
I
think what happened with him was just like, I don't think it was like full on abuse. I think it was just like some creepy thing that he did.
I think it was like a misunderstanding type of thing.
I have no idea.
Or I don't know. Yeah. Or whatever happened was, but I think in one of his beginning of his specials, kind of like briefly touched upon it.
Yeah.
And then what you were saying, they don't really go into like, I'm sorry for this and this. He kind of just like subliminally kind of like talked about it. You know what I'm saying?
I forget what he did, but I remember like it wasn't really like abuse. It was just like some weird stuff. Like it was some weird thing that he was being. It was just I don't know.
Uncomfortable situation that like.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But my point was that like when people get like accused of something, when people get attacked or get something brought up to them, immediately is like they'll go on the defensive. Unless you're someone that is willing to embrace criticism and embrace, things that will better you, you're gonna get on the defensive if you think that you're being accused of being a bad person.
Because no one likes being, singled out. You're
exactly,
bad,
especially for something like that. Like, hey, you could be potentially perpetuating rape culture. Like, that's
you don't want to be like, and then people are quick to defend themselves and whatnot. No one wants to feel, but it's also it shows maturity and like show you're willing to
it shows
learn.
Growth.
If you're saying, you know what, that was wrong with me, and going forward, I'm not gonna talk like that, or I'm not gonna.
Definitely
do that kind of stuff, and that I feel like you gain more respect from your friend group.
Exactly.
For saying that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, and in the long run, in the long run, like there's no way every single one of your boys in that friend group is gonna everybody. Yeah, possibly, but I was gonna get to the point of like more of there's probably someone else in that group that is also uncomfortable by what is being said. There's no way that everyone there's no way that everyone in that group is just okay with like a disrespectful statement like that.
Yeah.
Like there's probably someone else that will back you up. They're just waiting for you to say
it first, and then that's also a good thing.
Be like, yeah, you're right. That was actually kind of messed up. Maybe like don't say that, something like that.
Yeah, kind of like having a intervention with one of your friends. Obviously, hopefully not to get to that extent.
Right.
When an offhand comment is made like that, taking maybe not even doing it in front of everybody, kind of like taking your friend to the side, saying, hey yo bro, like I don't want to say it in front of everybody, it's like be a little more shows that you're not like singling out in front of everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
No one wants to feel like you're being put on blast with all their friends.
Yeah.
Putting your friend to the side, say ease into it a little bit and kind of like have a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and definitely just like we said, nip it in the bud. Try to prevent these things from happening, because we really have to do something, or else these things will just keep happening.
Yeah.
On a global, like on a macro scale, and societal scale, and a cultural scale, we have to truly do something.
Because what we can affect is the people we have around us.
Yeah.
It's harder to, all starts like for a lot of things, it all starts on like a small level.
Yeah,
For
and
it to
it starts
reach
with conversations like these.
Exactly.
Like, have these conversations with your boys. Like, you really do have to. It's a perfect time because this is still fresh in our minds. Like, when scandals like these start kind of slowing out, and even now the stories are kind of like dropping. Like, the number of them are kind of dropping, right? So while it's still fresh in your head,
But that doesn't mean
bring it up.
whatever is happening is dropping.
Exactly, it's
That
just
doesn't
not
mean
being
that's
spoken
happening.
about. So while it's the same thing with Black Lives Matter, same thing with Yemen, same thing with Syria, Palestine,
The woman
same
in
thing with
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh, same thing with everything. Just because it's not spoken about, it's still happening. It doesn't mean it's not happening. It still is. Overall, I really just want to put out the message that we, as brown men, have to do better.
For sure.
Brown boys really have to do better.
For sure.
And we,
Especially in this misogynistic culture, and it's always not to the extent of like your friends are really like harassing women, but just like these comments or like these
Yeah.
little offhand type of things.
Yeah.
It all adds to the problem.
Yeah.
The overall problem.
Yeah, and I do just want to briefly touch upon like I myself know dudes that were also like sexually harassed, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Male sexual
So
harassment does happen. Actually, I
when-
saw. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Continue.
so when those stories do get brought up to light, we have to be as supportive as we are for women, because I think like men we get like no, like I think women for a good portion of the time they get support from like their female friends, but males it's kind of hit or miss.
Yeah, because
Like, it's kind of hit or miss, and I'm not, I don't want to speak for a woman, but that's just what it seems to me. Whereas like guys are afraid.
Talking generalities.
Yeah,
Talking-
exactly. So guys, they're afraid because they don't want to be seen a certain way, obviously.
I seen it as like, bro, like you like it or like dog, like
Yeah,
what?
something like
Are you
that.
good, bro? And then like these guys not feeling ashamed to even bring it up.
Yeah,
to
or
their
they just maybe like, oh, I was really weak enough to let that happen to me, or something like that, right? Like the reasons are kind of similar, but it's a bit different. And yeah, for men too out there that have gone through it, like, check up on your friends. And if one of your boys does trust you enough to tell that story, be supportive with them. Don't let them down. Don't
or
make
write
them
off because
yeah.
that would just make them feel a lot
exactly.
worse.
Don't make them feel betrayed, because I know like a bunch of dudes that have gone through this, like on like some really messed up stuff. And it's
I
yeah.
feel like with obviously this happens. It happens to females like.
Proportionally way more.
And we're not saying it like that's like the last thing. Like,
Yeah.
we're not trying to say it doesn't happen. Obviously, we were talking about
Yeah.
that. But in the percentage that it does happen to men, but I feel like in regards to what happens to men, obviously men and women are different. I feel like women, I was talking generalities, women have more support systems a little bit, or maybe have female
In some things.
in some ways, and like
Yeah.
I feel like maybe female friends are a little more. But not always the case. Female friends
Yeah.
sometimes not. You'd be surprised. Sometimes
Yeah.
even your female friends could be unsupportive
Yeah.
of you coming out with the sexual harassment.
Yeah, no,
story.
we've seen that
We
recently
see
too.
that, which is also terrible as a fellow female to your sister or one of your close friends, and they're coming out, and then
Yeah.
you're also like saying like you're writing them off and like saying what you did was wrong, or like blaming them. That's
Yeah.
also terrible, and
For real.
that happens also. But maybe females might have a little more.
Because guys have the stigma of like, oh, you have to be strong, and like,
Yeah, it's like it's harder. To
oh, you
talk
could have
about
fought it
that kind
off
of
and
with
stuff
guy
like
friends,
that.
or like not have that
it's just
support
yeah,
system with your male friends, because they might not really like see what was wrong
exactly.
or like really understand the full scope of it. Because you know what I'm saying?
And I really hated when these conversations are brought up in response to a female coming out,
Exactly,
like, because
which is
no,
so
bro,
stupid, bro.
it's so
like, how are you gonna
corny.
counteract it
It's
with,
so,
"Oh, guys, do that?"
it's so corny when like, especially Twitter sucks for this reason,
because no one's
especially
denying it. Like
Yeah,
no one said
because
it.
yeah, like
No one's
these dudes
denying
really
it.
come out here like, but what about males being sexually abused? Like, okay, bro, have that conversation on your own time. Like, why are you
And
only?
plus the thing is, no
they're
one brought it up. Like no
they're-
one's denying you.
they're
that
only
that
they're only
happens.
speaking. Dudes are like, well, these specific dudes that like have this kind of response. They're only speaking about it when a female comes out with their own story. Like, why is this the only time you're having this
When
conversation?
no one's talking about it, and like if you feel so heavily about it,
Yeah.
so, like more attached to it,
Exactly.
you also bring it up on your own, try to have a
Like,
conversation
yeah,
about it.
like have this on your own timeline. Like, speak about it, spread awareness. Don't try to shut anyone's voices. You know.
Exactly, because like that's just you counteracting someone being strong enough to talk about something personal, like very personal and horrible that happened to them, and you shutting it down with saying like it always happens to the guy.
Same,
How do you think it's gonna
exactly.
make them feel?
Same thing with like the Black Lives Matter movement, where it's
Or,
like
all
where like other races get it tough too. Like brown
Oh, yeah.
people have like the terrorist
And
stereotype, and like we're an immigrant community, right?
it's true.
But if you're saying like,
Hispanic
oh, brown people,
community,
yeah,
brown
Hispanic community,
community,
like brown people,
Like,
brown
I've
people
seen
have it tough
firsthand,
too.
my
Like,
dad did, like when I was with him when I was a kid, like literally at like my dad used to do construction. We had
Yeah.
like a garbage disposal center because he had a lot of from a job. He had like in his truck, he had to
Yeah.
like, dispose a lot of like junk and like waste and whatnot. We go to the center and then I don't want to say like it's these two white guys, but obviously it doesn't matter what they could have been any race. But these two guys in another truck, and then they come out, they call my dad, you know, like freaking like terrorist or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
just go back to your country. Seeing as a kid, and like, but both of us are complete advocates for Black Lives Matter because we're not denying that it happens in our community, racism
Yeah.
happens in other immigrant communities, but with the Black community is like it all starts from there because once we get all that sorted out and help our brothers and sisters in the Black community get their rights and what they deserve and their freedoms, and it's also going to translate to all other
Yeah,
all
of
the
course.
people of color. That's
But,
what people
yeah,
don't-
exactly.
It's not like we're all separate. We're all in this together.
yeah, exactly. And if you're only bringing up the conversation of when a black person is bringing up their struggles, then that's just disrespectful, and that's not needed, and that's not warranted at all. And you're not doing anything for our struggle
Either.
whatsoever.
Exactly.
Like, both of our dads are immigrant business owners, bro. They've had it tough. Like, my dad got looted recently, right?
yeah,
I'm not
terrible.
gonna blame that on black protesters or
You're gonna
them
blame it on
fighting
a
for their
terrible
race.
system that causes
Exactly. I'm gonna blame it on that, and I'm gonna blame it on people that were stupid enough to take advantage of the situation and loot immigrant people of color stores. Right? This isn't like all of the protests that are happening for equal rights and stuff like that. These are just bad people, but also it's a systemic thing for allowing those people to be brought up in like bad neighborhoods where they might have had more of a materialistic take and might have like looked up to things that, you know, have value, right? Because in my dad's store, he sells perfume and cologne and stuff, so they have some monetary value, right? There's a few like expensive selections there. So when someone is brought up to have a materialistic take because they didn't have much, it can kind of lead to that, right? And that's a systemic problem. That's another systemic problem. It's a racial issue, it's a wealth issue, and all of it comes from the top. And that's really what we have to keep in mind going forward. We really have to just call out things on a systemic macro scale.
Exactly, because the people at the top, they love it when we fight amongst each other.
Yeah.
They want that to happen.
Yeah.
Like, us like bickering and arguing, like, you know, we had this problem.
For real.
We had this problem. That's what they want us to.
For real, bro.
That's what they
Yeah.
want us to do. But we're not. We shouldn't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'm all for, you know, our black brothers, our black sisters getting the rights and freedoms and everything they deserve. They 100% deserve that. And then once they get that, you know, all other communities, you know, we work towards that also.
Yeah.
It's all a collective goal at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What we're fighting for.
The same thing with the recent like sexual allegations, right? Sexual abuse allegations. If we support one another, we're gonna just improve ourselves as a community, as a collective. It's not just these people or these few people that are like, you know, getting what they need or getting what they want. No, on a community level, on a societal level, on a cultural level, we're improving. We're sticking up for what's right, and that's always a good thing.
And I'm actually really genuinely I don't want to say surprised, but I'm proud of like our generation, our like age group, and like how much they went out for like Black Lives, how they showed up for Black Lives.
Yeah, no, young people are
like,
really.
I'm sure. I'm not saying like all other older generations too. Like they did a lot too.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen a lot of older people at protests, but like our generation, our age group, you know, like showing up, really voicing like what we believe in. Like, voicing our opinions and, and everything. I'm like really proud of us, like our age group and our generation. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause we're really making a difference out here. Like kids younger than us, people a little older than us, like all of us, like really making a difference.
Yeah.
Like, who would have thought? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I hope we make a difference. Sometimes I think it's just like it kind of seems like a trend,
A little bit, yeah.
and then
But
it sort of dies out. But I hope this
well,
time it's
it,
not like
it,
that.
it obviously the protests are like eventually gonna die down a little bit, but just the conversation, and
Yeah.
the talk in the community
And
about everything. I
yeah,
hope that never dies out until substantial change
there's
actually
already been
occurs.
change. Like people are being held accountable.
Exactly.
And there's changes that are being proposed on a city level. Like there's already changes that are being proposed. We just have to keep continuing the fight. And the same thing with bringing back to the topic of this episode. Same thing with sexual abuse and all these horror stories. We really have to do better. We really have to reflect. We really have to think about what can I do
To
as a
help
brown man to help my sisters in this
in
community.
this community, because from the when we talked in the beginning of the podcast, and even me just really thinking about it too personally, like even just reflecting on it right now, just like the whole fact that it really could even happen within your own family.
Yeah.
And you could be friends with these women, your female friends in your communities, and you might not even know this is happening to them. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just terrible, being supportive of whoever comes out with the story, or like not shutting anyone down, which is a terrible thing to do.
Yeah.
Or rebutting them with another statistic, which is
Yeah.
not helping anybody at the end
Yeah.
of the day.
Yeah, that's a good point to sort of end on. Like, just to summarize, I really hope that we better ourselves as a community. I really hope that we reflect, we improve. Brown boys have to do better, and
Yeah.
that's really all there is to it. We
Because
really do.
these are sisters, bro. Like,
Yeah,
or in
yeah,
the
for real.
community, these are,
So I pray that Allah gives us the ability to fight for justice, and I hope that Allah brings these perpetrators and these oppressors to account. Because if they don't get justice in this world, they're definitely getting it in the next world, right? And I pray that we can all get some inner peace in this world and in the next. And I pray that we can all be reunited in Jannah as brothers, as sisters,
Inshallah.
and as a collective.
inshallah.
I mean, thank you, Abdur, for being on this episode.
I hope that you guys like me. I feel like sometimes I mumble when I talk. But if I talk too fast, my apologies.
That's all good.
I've never really been on video before, so I hope I like this conversation. It was a good
Yeah,
conversation.
it's all good, bro. I want you again, like on more talks like this. So you're definitely
appreciate
coming
it.
back, bro. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, like always. Or I hope always. Thank you guys on the audio for tuning in. You probably listen to this on your commute or something like that. Keep coming back. We're still gonna be putting these out, inshallah, God willing. And yeah, stay tuned. Have a good day.